What would you do if your faith was tested in the line of those who hated the Catholic faith? Greetings to you all and happy Ash Wednesday. For those that don't know me, my name is Joseph Weber, better known online here as the Webermania itself. For this season of March Martyrs, there are a couple things that'll be new for the very first time. Our first one is that there is a March Madness styled bracket with 32 martyrs competing for the title of the March Martyrs Champion. Link to the bracket is in the description down below. The second thing is that there is a bonus martyr for a season, which will be discussed later on in the episode. And finally, there is a particular theme for a season of March Martyrs that you will find out. Now, with those settled items, onto our bonus martyr and the theme for this season of March Martyrs. Willi Graf was born in Kuchenheim near Euskirchen. In 1922, his family moved to Saarbrücken, where his father ran as a wine wholesaler and managed the Johannshof, the second largest banquet hall in the city. Graf attended the school at Ludwigs Gymnasium. It was not long before he joined at the age of 11 the Bund in Deutschland, a Catholic youth movement for young men in schools of higher learning, which was banned after Hitler and the Nazis came to power in 1933. In 1934, Graf joined the Grey Order, another Catholic movement which became known for its anti-Nazi rhetoric. It too was banned for this reason, and it formed many splinter youth groups. Graf showed conviction in his beliefs from a young age. Although compulsory at the time, he refused to associate with the Hitler Youth, even when he was threatened to becoming ineligible to go to the universities unless he joined the Hitler Youth. While other future members of the White Rose initially embraced the Hitler Youth, Graf never did. Moreover, in his address book, he crossed out the names of friends who had joined the Hitler Youth, refusing to associate with them. In 1935, at the age of 17, Graf and a few friends marched in the annual May Day parade. The parade was dominated by swastikas, brown shirt Hitler Youth, marching in formation and doing the Sieg Heil. However, Graf and his friends marched under their tattered school flag, making effort to stand out from their peers. They did not don any swastikas or participate in any of the Sieg Heil salutes. While his parents never placed much emphasis on literature and written works, the only books the family owned were religious ones. Graf was a voracious reader. Seriously and intelligently minded, he enjoyed reading Christian works, with one of his favorite Christian authors being Romano Guardini, one of the leading figures of the liturgical revival of the Catholic Church in Germany. He conducted an in-depth study of Christian authors in his teenage years with a special focus on works by Romano Guardini. He also enjoyed reading poetry, foreign works, and works banned by the Nazis. Throughout his life, books were a lifeline for him. When he was serving on the Eastern Front, he would write to his friends to see if they could send him more books. In the last year of his life alone, he read 40 books. After his arbiter in 1937, Graf did his 6-month Reich labor service, and afterwards began his medical studies at the University of Bonn. In 1938, he was arrested along with other members of the Grey Order and charged by a court in Mannheim with illegal youth activities, the Bund having banned in relation with his unlawful field trips, camping excursions, and other meetings with the Grey Order. The charges were later dismissed as part of a general amnesty declared to celebrate the Anschluss. The detention had lasted 3 weeks. His time in jail did not weaken his decision to participate in any anti-Nazi activities or organizations. After his release, Graf was allowed to return to the university to continue his medical studies. While there, Graf was required to report for military duty in August of 1939. The following month, September, the war officially began. At this time, the University of Bonn was closed for the course of the war. Graf had chosen the University of Bonn because his aunt and uncle lived in Bonn and offered to let him live there with them, as well as the fact that many of his friends, including his then-girlfriend, Marianne Thoren, went to that university. After it closed, Graf transferred to Munich. He had completed 4 semesters at the University of Bonn. In January of 1940, Graf was officially drafted as a medic. After serving preliminary medical training, he was shipped to France in September 1940. After serving in France for a few months, he was then transferred to a heavy artillery unit in Belgium. In 1940, in March of the following year, he was transferred to the Eastern Front, having medical duties in both Serbia and Poland. While in Poland in June of 1941, when he saw the Warsaw Ghetto, it caused him to write terrible in his diary entry on June 6, 1941. He might have written more, but unfortunately during this time of upheaval, he was worried that what would happen if others read his diary. On June 22, 1941, Germany declared war on Russia. Soon after, Graf was transferred there, where he would stay until he was allowed to return to Munich to continue his studies in April the following year. During these deployments, he saw terrible things that traumatized him and began to destroy his faith in humanity. As he later wrote to a friend while stationed in Russia, "A war has started that I can't compare to anything else, even here in this land that has always been a mystery to us." In his army medic files, it was observed that his care of the ill was exemplary. Dr. Wabel, the chief medical officer, said that Graf, quote, showed himself to be an intrepid medic who never thought about his own safety. Graf was granted the Iron Cross, 2nd class with swords, for his actions. In April 1942, Graf was temporarily relieved of duty and was sent to the University of Munich to continue his studies. While there, he met Hans Scholl and then Alexander Schmorl. Graf met Hans Scholl and Alexander Schmorl soon after transferring back to Munich. He was introduced to them by Christoph Probst, who took part in fencing with Graf. When Scholl met Graf, he remarked, quote, "He is one of us." Around this time, Graf began to take part in discussions with Scholl, Schmorl, Probst, and their friends. The activities of the White Rose first started in June of 1942. After their experiences at the Eastern Front, having learned about mass murder in Poland and the Soviet Union, Scholl and Schmorl felt compelled to take action. From the end of June until mid-July 1942, they wrote the first 4 leaflets, quoting extensively from the Bible, Aristotle, and novelists, as well as Goethe and Schiller, the iconic poets of the German bourgeoisie. They appealed to what they considered the German intelligentsia, believing that these people would be easily convinced by the same arguments that had also motivated the authors themselves. These leaflets were left in telephone books and public phone booths, mailed to professors and students, and taken by courier to other universities for distribution. Graf was not part of the group at first, but was officially brought into the group on July 10, 1942. A few weeks later, Scholl, Schmorl, and Graf were deployed to the Russian front over the summer of 1942. Graf had already been deployed to Russia, but it was Scholl and Schmorl's first time being deployed on the Eastern Front. On the train ride to Russia, the train passed through Poland. While there, Graf, Scholl, and Schmorl saw the evacuation of the Warsaw Ghetto. In Russia, Scholl and Schmorl and Graf would sneak away at night to go to the home of Russian natives. Schmorl, who had been born in Russia and spoke fluently in Russian, introduced Graf and Scholl to the Russian culture. Graf and his friends were allowed to return to Munich in November 1942. Soon after returning to Munich, Graf traveled to Bonn, officially to arrange a fencing tournament, unofficially to ask Marianne Thorn to marry him. While there, she told him that she was already engaged to another man. After some deliberation, he decided to still be friends with her. But after this rejection, he threw himself back into the White Rose activities with vigor. During this time, 2 more leaflets were written, and efforts were made to expand the reaches of the White Rose group. Graf was a recruiter for the group. From January 20th through the 24th, 1943, he traveled to Cologne, Bonn, Saarbrücken, Freiburg, and Ulm, armed with copies of the 5th leaflet and a hectograph machine, with the end goal in mind to recruit some of his Grey Order friends. He asked 40 people to join. Only 4 agreed to help. 2 who agreed to help were brothers Willi and Heinz Bullinger, forged travel papers for him. Although they agreed with the decision to resist National Socialism, they told Graf that they believed that he had only a 2% chance of success for Graf and his friends. On February 3rd, 1943, the news of the defeat of Stalingrad was broadcast to the German public. Later that day, Graf, Schmorl, and Scholl snuck out at night and graffitied public buildings with slogans such as "Down with Hitler" and "Hitler the Mass Murderer." During the campaign, Schmorl would hold up the stencils while Graf painted the slogans on with tar paint. Scholl stood guard, armed with the pistol in case anyone walked in on their graffitiing. On February 8th, 1943, Graf and Scholl graffitied again. This time, they used green oil paint. On February 15th, 1943, Scholl, Schmorl, and Graf snuck out and graffitied the Feldenhall. Then, a monument to the Nazis who were killed during the failed beer hall push. The graffiti campaigns put the Gestapo on high alert. On February 18th, 1943, Sophie and Hans Scholl were sent to the Ludwig Maximilian University to leave flyers out for the students to read. They were seen by Jacob Schmid, a custodian at the university who was a Gestapo informer at the time. At around midnight on February 18th, Gestapo agents arrested Graf when he returned to his apartments after meeting with his cousins. When he was captured, he was asked to be allowed to go to his bedroom and change into his Wehrmacht uniform. The agents agreed to his request. While changing, he was able to hide his diary under his many books. The diary would later be found by his sister Anneliese, who was also arrested by the Gestapo at the same time, but was released a few months later. Graf's trial was set for April 19th, 1943. At his trial, Graf was sentenced to death at the Volgenstrafe for high treason, undermining the troop spirit, and furthering the enemy's cause. Graf was beheaded on October 12th, 1943 at Stadelheim prison in Munich after around 6 months of solitary confinement. During the 6-month period, the Gestapo used psychological torture to try to extract information from Graf about other White Rose members and other anti-Nazi movements. Graf never gave up any names, taking on the blame for the White Rose activities in order to protect others who had not yet been arrested. In his last letter to his family, he wrote the following, saying, quote, "On this day I am leaving this life, and entering eternity. What hurts me most of all is that I am causing such pain to those of you who go on living. But strength and comfort you'll find with God, and that is why I'm praying for to that's what I'm praying for to the last moment. I know that it'll be harder for you than for me. I ask you, Father and Mother, from the bottom of my heart to forgive me for the anguish and the disappointment I've brought you. I have often regretted what I've done to you, especially here in prison. Forgive me and always pray for me. Hold on to the good memories. I can never say to you while alive how much I loved you. But now in the last hours, I want to tell you, unfortunately on this dry paper, that I love you all deeply, that I have respected you for everything that you gave me and everything you made possible for me with your care and love. Hold each other and stand together with love and trust. God's blessing on us. In Him we are and we live. I am, with love always, your Willy. In 1946, his remains were transferred to the St. Johann Cemetery in Saarbrücken. 8 schools in Germany have been named after him, among them the Willy Graf Gymnasium in Munich and Saarbrücken St. Johann, a student residence in Munich, which also honors Graf by bearing his name. Graf's diary from 1942 to 1943, as well as his letters from that time, were published in 1988 under the title Willy Graf, Brief and Ausscheiken. In 2003, Graf was posthumously awarded the status of honorary citizen of Saarbrücken. The Catholic Church in Germany included Graf in the list of their martyrs of the 20th century. In 2017, the Archbishop of Munich and Freising, Cardinal Reinhard Marx, initiated the first step in the process of canonization, being titled The Servant of God, a preliminary investigation in which theologians and historians will analyze the life and the writings of Graf. In October 2020, the Archdiocese of Munich and Freising made it known that they are in the middle of preparing the process of beatification for Willy Graf. As you probably might have guessed, the bonus martyr that was mentioned is Servant of God Wilhelm Graf, a 25-year-old German student who was a member of the anti-Nazi movement, the White Rose. This isn't the first time that the anti-Nazi movement has ever been mentioned before on the YouTube channel. In the first season of Martyrs, the fifth martyr was St. Alexander Schmorl, a member of the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. For more information about the White Rose movement, there will be a link to a TED-Ed video describing the impact it brought. And as you probably might have guessed, by the context clues alone, the theme for March Martyrs Season 3 are the forgotten martyrs of World War II.